Okie doke. So, the basics of how to animate in Alpaca is very simple. I actually had to learn this on the spot for the last class because someone was like, I'm going to be using it, and I completely forgot this program existed.
Of
And
course.
sorry that the stream is kind of delayed, so everything I say will take a couple minutes for the stream to catch up to it.
Oh, I'm only listening through Discord, so I muted the actual
Oh no,
YouTube
there's
video.
no audio for the stream itself, it's just the visuals that are gonna be behind. So, Joe, do you have Fire Alpaca open?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, so you go to File, New, and make a new document.
I already did that.
Then you go to View, and then at the
Okay.
bottom, you see Onion Skin mode.
I'm typing this down, so
I can hear.
I know, but I'm typing it down just for reference. And also, your screen is not working on. Yeah, it is very
Oh no,
delayed.
it's just behind. So, after you make a new document and you go to View and Onion Skin, just draw like a scribble or something on layer 1. And when you make a new layer, it will
Yep.
turn red, whatever you
Yep.
drew. And that's the previous frame. So it's kind of like a vertical timeline rather than a horizontal timeline.
Okay, so it's kind of like Photoshop in that regard. That's
Except
sort of the same thing.
so much simpler because Photoshop doesn't realize when you want things to be going on when. And if you change anything in the first frame, it changes it for everything else. So it's like, I don't want this to be in the first frame, but it's going to be in every other frame, and I'm at like 250 frames. You have to go one frame at a time and insert it into all those frames.
Yeah.
For this, it's like, it's just going to stay there. And if you want multiple layers, you can make a group, and anything in that group counts as a frame.
Okay, how do I
So,
do that?
at the bottom of the where all the frame stuff is,
Oh, I think I
uh,
got it.
yeah, you see the little folder thing.
Oh, the photo. Oh, whoops. Okay, yeah, now I got it.
Yeah, and you just put layers in there, and whatever that group is gonna be its own frame.
Okay, so basically a new group equals a new layer.
Yeah.
Okay, let me write that down.
Well, it's more of it's a new frame because there's layers inside the frame. And
Oh,
if
yeah.
you want to preview the animation you have made, you can go to View and Autoplay. I
I'll try
don't
that
know
really
why
quick.
it's default 8 second or 8 frames per second, but you can change it to 24.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Redo this. Yeah. There we go. Oh god, it's like seizure mode.
Oh yeah, if you change it to 8 frames a second or 24 frames a second, it goes really quick.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And that's how you use Fire Alpaca.
But how do you like fill in colors like on separate layers? Would that be a just like as a like secondary thing, I guess?
What do you mean by fill in colors? You mean just color the frame?
Yeah, sort of like.
You just color the frame. You
Okay.
you get a brush and you just kind of color it in,
Okay.
and
So
then
you would have to do that for every single frame, though.
you'd have to do that for every single frame in any program.
True. mouse is acting wonky again. That's
But there are like fill tools probably. Yeah, there is a fill tool, so if you have all your stuff closed off, it should work.
okay.
You just have to make sure you don't accidentally have something that looks like it's gonna fill nicely and have the white border in between the color and the outline, because that's something that happens a lot. And for Krita, it's a little more complicated. You have to go to window, or I keep going to window, settings and Dockers, and you have to turn on the animation and timeline Dockers. Also onion skin, but you can turn that on from the actual animation timeline thing. And it works kind of the same, except for Krita, each frame or each layer itself is its own animation sequence, so you don't have a bunch of things happening at the same time. And if I make a new project and just use my normal settings and make a new layer. When you make a layer in Krita and you turn on the onion skin and you make a new frame by clicking this little thing over here, the recording for this will be much more timed well, but the actual class itself is probably going to be behind. I'm going to try and call my brother, because he's a computer tech person, and see if I can make the internet faster, because I'm getting sick and tired of New York internet being so slow.
Wait, you're in New York?
Yeah, I'm going to be in New York till January, Joe. I've been
Sorry, I guess
saying this.
I forgot. I'm sorry. My brain's all over the place.
So in Krita, you have the whole layer, you added a new frame, and a little light bulb appears. And that's how you turn the onion skin on and off.
Okay.
And then in the timeline, as soon as you add a new layer, you'll see the onion skin on it. And for the onion skins, I love Krita's onion skinning, because you can tell it like up to 10 frames either direction how dark you want it, how far on either direction you want, up to 10. You can say what colors you want it to be all in the same window, and it's so nice and pretty, and you can have it be different layers are tagged, so you can be like, oh, just the line art for the entire animation. Doesn't matter if it's 20 frames, this one tag is gonna say it's that. And it's real nice. You can add tags here and it's different colors, and you put them on over here, and it's all nice and pretty. And you can just click and drag the frames wherever you want it to be, if it will be nice and let me do it. There it goes. For some reason it was like trying to click 2 frames down for no reason. But yeah, you can just click and drag frames, and it's really easy. So for a program that's not geared towards animation, this is very nice for animation, especially since it's free. So yeah, better than Photoshop, because it has smooth stroke, unlike Photoshop.
Yeah.
And then Toon Boom. I don't think anyone here is using Toon Boom, but I need to open it. Oh cool, you can copy frames. Thanks, Psych. How do you pronounce your name? Because I keep going between like Physique and Psych. Ah. Physies. Like
Disease?
Physies?
Disease.
Okay.
Cool.
So it's like disease, but with a f. So I'll open the file I made in the last class for Class A. That way you don't have to see me draw a bunch of circles and move them.
Okay.
So, since I don't think anyone here is using Toon Boom, I won't go through the whole tutorial for that because that's a longer one because there's lots of stuff that's just Toon Boom specific, but for this class it's mostly as long as you can make a drawing and then put a drawing in order with other drawings, you're good. That way it's accessible to as many people as possible. But animation for the bouncing ball assignment. We're going to be learning a bunch of different principles all squished into one. The first one is squash and stretch. The basic principle of squash and stretch entails that when something gets smaller in one direction, it's going to get bigger the opposite direction. So I'm going to make a filled in circle. So if a ball or a sphere gets thinner horizontally, it's going to get taller vertically to maintain the mass of the object. Where if it gets shorter, if it will let me or squash it rather than move it, if it gets shorter, it will get wider as well. And that's the basic principle of squash and stretch in a nutshell. For things that aren't just a bouncing ball, it happens a lot just in normal everyday activities where that is a thick brush. If you have just like a character, why am I making everything so thick today? There we go. If you have just a person and they're going to do like a jump, they're going to have to squash down, which means that their legs are going to bend, making them look wider as they get shorter and make their head the same size. So they're going to have to squat down and get wider as they get shorter before they can jump up and stretch and become thinner as well as longer. Just like your basic bouncing ball. I need to get my handy dandy remote control for my tablet. Oops.
Oh, that was weird. I just got Wi-Fi back.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I wish that would work for me, but my internet's being my internet.
Yeah, my internet's also having problems. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Like back home in Georgia, my brother makes sure the internet is like top notch. And because this is like our temporary smaller house to visit family up north, the internet doesn't get as much love as down south. So, yeah, I miss the south for its internet quality. So what did you miss? Like from where to where?
You were talking about how to use I didn't really follow it, but you were talking about how to animate in Krita.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Krita is like a foul temptress of a program where it's like you see the potential of it and it's like, I want to do that. You see how to do it, it's like, oh. But it gets simple after you figure it out, like the first time, maybe the second time. But it has a handy dandy onion skin menu that's really nice and versatile. And for as far as just like basic animation goes, you just need to turn on the timeline and the animation dockers in the settings menu up here. And
wait, let me get to the stream tab. Oh, it says video playback interrupted. I should probably just reload.
yeah.
It's reloading. My internet's on like 2 bars.
Yeah, it's like I don't know why the internet for
There,
me
I
is
see.
being so shaky. Because it's like I have full bars of internet right now, and it's still like, sorry, you have a low quality stream happening. It's gonna buffer a lot.
That sounds frustrating.
Yeah. So basically, you just need to turn on timeline animation, and the first little square button is to add a new frame.
Okay, wait, settings, configure toolbars.
Go to Dockers.
Oh, settings, Dockers.
Then animation and timeline.
Animation and Dockers timeline. There.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And you click the little onion in the corner to make the onion skins pop up. I usually take the onion skins and animation tabs off the bottom because they really stretch it out and it looks so much more intimidating for some reason to me. And it looks so nice as just a little itty bitty box on the side.
So, like, how do you make a keyframe in Krita?
You basically have a layer, and each layer has its own animation on it, so you don't have to
so it's like Photoshop.
It is, but isn't, because for Photoshop, Photoshop is weird. And, like, if you mess with anything on the first layer, it messes up every other frame, or the first frame, it messes up the other ones for me. So I've animated like twice in Photoshop, so I don't know it too well. But for this, it's like, to make a full animation, you need only one layer and the timeline. And so when you make a new layer, you go over to the animation dock, and you hit the first square that says, if you hover over it, it says new frame, and then it will.
Wait, where? Oh wait, is it like, which corner is it on? I don't see it.
For the animation dock, it's it's like right above onion skin.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then
so I go like there, and then
then you'll see like the you'll see it show up in the timeline.
I get
it. When you add something to the timeline, a little light bulb will appear on that layer at the very end, where the layer is on the timeline, and you click that on, so there's like the little rays of light coming off it to turn the onion skin on. And that took me forever to figure out, because there is no one who actually said, make a new layer or make a frame. It shows up then. Click it. You have onion skin on. It would be like a 5-page paragraph thing, and my brain couldn't wrap around it, so I was just clicking buttons till I found out.
Wait, so I'm clicking on. I'm sorry, you probably already said this, but yeah, I also. I mean, I know you have ADD. I also have ADHD, so sometimes I don't really hear what people say.
Oh no, I'm like that 100%.
Yeah, so like, did you say like I'm clicking on the onion and it's not like doing anything?
Oh, did you make a frame yet?
I made 2 frames. I have like one frame which is one squiggle and then another frame which is another squiggle.
Yeah, for the button that's the onion itself, it brings up the actual dock for the onion skins. But to turn it on for the layer, you have to click the little light bulb on the timeline. So it will be like layer 2, then you'll see an I for visibility, a lock to lock the layer, A for
Oh, I
alpha.
see.
Yeah. It's in
Oh yeah, you already.
Oh
I
no,
remember you already said that.
it's out of the way and confusing because you would think that the big onion button will turn the onion skin on, but it doesn't for some reason. But
All right.
it's a lot less complicated for me than Photoshop is, and it's free, unlike Photoshop. So yeah. And so that's the basics of how you animate in Krita. You just keep making frames, and you can click and drag layers. Fizziz mentioned that you can also copy a layer with Control C.
So like, how do you play it back?
On the animation dock, you see the play button, and you can just
Oh,
play it there.
yeah, it's a giant play button. Why did I miss that?
Oh no, I missed it too. And I also,
Oh, I get it.
yeah.
Like I animated like a squiggle with like a weird blob thing.
Yeah, for the one I did for the fire alpaca is basically just a person, I think, who is just wiggling a body. I think it's a thing. But for that, it's basically that's all you need to know about the like how to use the program. Well, I guess to export it, you say file render animation, and it will sometimes come up with a thing here. And the part that really got me uh at this section was the FFmpeg area, because you need to download that plugin, and I downloaded it and I could not figure out why it wasn't working. And I was just being dumb because there's this whole line next to it that says, "Where is it found right now?" And you have to actually tell the program where you put it because it's not psychic. And I didn't think about that. So 2 hours of my life was just clicking like download and install and being frustrated why it wasn't working. And then I noticed it, and everything was good in the world. Most of the things I learn is trial and error. But yeah, you can say where the name's gonna be, where it's going to render to, the length of the frames. You can have it be different video files. I usually stick to either MPEG-4 or a GIF. And you can say include audio. And I usually delete the sequence after rendering because I don't need all those frames.
All right.
Oops.
So, I see. I
rendered
see
that.
how you're moving
Yeah.
frames. I mean, you can't remove the first frame. You can only clear it, just like in Adobe Animate.
Yeah.
This is like the second time I've ever used Krita.
Yeah, it's like I tried using Krita like a while ago, and I was just like, it's a thing. And now that I don't have Photoshop, I actually tried using it more, and I'm like, why wasn't I using this sooner? It's so nice. It's like the best parts of Photoshop and Psy put together. And you can animate in it.
Yeah. I don't know why, like, I mean, I don't really see many, like, YouTube animators using Krita.
Yeah. I think it's just because it's complicated to learn. But then again, there's people like Bakamiel who use Paint Tool Sai and Windows Movie Maker, and their animations are godly. And I'm just sitting here like, I can animate I swear.
I usually, what I do is that I usually go into Adobe Animate and I like make the sketch and like the in-betweens, and then I ink it in Paint Tool SAI and color it. And then I
My
put it together
brain
in
could
like
not
Premiere.
do that. I need to have
Ah,
like onion skin on 24/7 when inking. But then again, I'm a terrible cleanup artist. I'm a great rough animator though.
ah.
So that could be why.
Mhm.
But for the actual lesson I started after explaining those programs, I usually animate in Toon Boom because I'm the most used to that, thanks to school.
Yeah.
But for the basic principles of squash and stretch is the whole, if it gets taller one direction, it's going to get thinner the other direction. If it gets shorter, it's going to get fatter. And that can translate into body movement. I have like a sneeze or something, so I have to keep on like inhaling weirdly. So I apologize for that. But you have a person, and the squash will be when they have the anticipation where they're about to jump, and they have to get lower and wider to build up uh, energy and whatnot. And then once they actually jump, they get thinner and taller, and that would be the stretch. And that also happens with faces when you do lip sync. When someone opens their jaw, their cheeks go in more. If they close their jaw, the cheeks go out more. Especially on more stylized faces, that way they look more animated. And so for the basics of the bouncing ball, hopefully this works the way I am imagining it will. Oh yay, it does. One thing that Toon Boom has that's really nice is something called pegs, and it's used for either puppeting animation or just simple translations. And I like to use that for a basis of to get just the sense of timing of something. So it'll be like this person's this circle, and this circle's gonna go from here to here, and then they're gonna get bigger and closer here, and I can get the arcs and everything in order, and then I can start doing rough animation if I'm not 100% sure how I want it to look. And you can put pegs on top of pegs. So for this peg, it's just the simple up and down movement of the ball. I need to turn on repeat. And so if we turn this on and pause it, over here you can see I keep forgetting which program I'm in and how each program has different options for zooming. But this is basically what a timing chart would look like, where this is the one that I drew that looks nicer and more clear, where for the bouncing ball it has very little frames on the bottom and a lot of frames up top. So the closer the dashes are, the slower something is going to become, because it's all moving very close together. And one common mistake with the bouncing ball, or just things falling in general, is that they'll have it slow down there just like a little bit, but it's very noticeable. Even if you can't see it, but you feel it when they slow it down right before it hits the ground. Because they wanted to have a slow-in, but slow-ins don't work when something's falling because of gravity, and there's no way you can slow down before you hit the ground. So to really have that impact, you just have to have it going as quickly as possible into the ground. And once it makes contact, you can have the squash and have it actually have an extra frame down there. And the more frames you have on the bottom, the more energy something's going to store. And just by the timing alone and adding 1 or 2 frames into an animation can change what it looks like, what it feels like it's going to look like, as like material wise, where if something has a lot of squash and a very quick bounce, it will look more like a rubber ball or a bouncy ball. But if something has very little bounce, or a very slow bounce, and very little squash to it, it will look like more of a stress ball, where if you throw it on the ground, it doesn't squish and it doesn't go very far because they're full of air and holes. And so I need to make this go all the way over to here. This button. And so the assignment for this week is basically you have two balls that one's going to be one type of material, one's going to be another type. One has, like, the first one will be a softer material, the second one will be a more solid material. And the more solid material will have to get, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like it has to get closer to stopping than the soft material, where the soft material is just going to be a bouncing ball going across the screen. If you want something more advanced, you can have it in perspective. I'll put a link to a really easy tutorial on how to make, to set that up so it looks nice and accurate in perspective and everything. And welcome back, Atoil. And so, for making things bounce across the screen, for this it has very different timing to it, where it gets slower at the top and faster at the bottom. But for something that's bouncing across the screen, if I turn on this and this, you'll see that the timing is even all the way across, because if something's just going across the screen, it doesn't matter if it's bouncing or anything, it's still going to have that same type of forward momentum. I don't know how to pronounce it. It looks like a toil. Etole. How would you pronounce it? Etole. Is that right?
Etole?
Italy? Etoile? Etoile?
Etoile.
Etoile. The majesty of names.
Etoile.
Etoile. Okay.
Yes!
This is how I would type it if I was doing a pronunciation thing. Oh yeah, I guess it wouldn't be Etoile because it doesn't have the accent over it. And I always love pronunciation things where they capitalize whatever is the stressed syllable, because it just looks like it'd be like, Etoile! But anyways, back to the majesty of animation. So, for something to be moving across the screen, it will have constant forward momentum as it slows in and slows out at the top, and it just has no slow-in whatsoever going towards the bottom. And you'll have it so it will start leaning towards where it's going to be, and it gets closer and closer to being the original ball shape at the top, because nothing's moving, nothing is like gonna make it squash or stretch, because it has to completely stop to change direction, and that second of just stopping is gonna be the default shape, and then it's gonna slowly speed up and stretch into the squash where it's gonna make contact, squish, and then the part where it actually shoots off is gonna be off of the ground. Because if you have it, when you have the takeoff still be on the ground, it looks either more sentient or more of like a sticky kind of material. And for the assignment, you have to make sure it's a non-sentient ball. So it has to be just like someone just threw a tennis ball, and that's it. Because making something sentient and bounce is really easy, because you get to decide how it acts as a character. If something is non-sentient, you have to just obey the laws of physics and make it look natural, because everyone knows what a ball bouncing looks like. Unless people think everything that bounces and is sentient looks like flubber, they'll not know what the proper motion that a sentient sphere would be. So it's easy to get away with things that are more imaginary, like having multiple flips in the air and doing like triple cartwheels while also dodging rockets in space is really easy to pull off, because no one knows what that's going to look like. Having someone walk and pick up a cup of coffee and drink it, that's hard, because people know what that looks like and they'll call out when it doesn't. And it's terrifying. So yeah, you'll have the squash going up, or the stretch going up, and stretch coming down into the squash on the impact. And I'll have everything for the assignment on just like a sheet of paper, and I'll post it probably later tonight, because right after this I have the next class at 7 o'clock. That's one of the reasons I was worried about the internet, because it's like, if I have to start too late, then the next class is going to be late, and then I'll be late twice today. So luckily, this was able to start at a reasonable time. And for the Joe, you've already done these assignments, so you can have more free range with this, because Joe was actually in my Principle of 2D class where we first learned animation. Isn't that right, Joe? We were taught by John Weber, who was one of the animators who animated Mushu, who animated Lilo, who animated, who else did he animate? John Henry and the John Henry short for Disney. I think, wait, no, in Fantasia it wasn't the seagulls, it was the whales, because he kept on saying that it was the first thing he ever animated for Disney, was just months of just animating whale eyes, and that's it. And now off to DeviantArt to show an example of what the assignment will be at the most basic of levels. He might have also animated the seagulls, though. I just remember specifically he also animated the whale eyes. And it's so hard to select things with a tablet. For specifically the more solid objects, it has little to no squash or stretch, and you'll have to have it roll off of something to make it more of a scene instead of it just being the basic bouncing ball. For one, it will be something you can show on a portfolio to get into college, and it will look real nice instead of just seeing a ball bouncing across the screen. And also, it will give you more practice in having to animate depending on what the situation is. And so you'll have it roll off of something to the ground. You get to decide how high that's going to be, but you also have to make sure whatever height you make it start at is the height that will be believable during the bounces. So if you have it drop off of like a skyscraper, it's probably not going to bounce. It's probably just going to stick into the ground. So you might want to get something lower than a skyscraper. And then afterwards, actually we saw it, a bowling ball get thrown into the air and drop, and it was terrifying because he didn't really think about where he was throwing it. He just kind of threw it up and then ran. But that was a fun day in class. But it can drop from a pretty high height and still have a nice bounce to it. And so it can be anywhere from like 5 feet to like 30 feet. And it will have to roll to a stop because it just looks strange if it just stops moving at the last bounce. This way it has like the full scene. And for the normal bouncing ball, the more rubber tennis ball, you can either have it going across the screen, just perfect side view, or if you want something more challenging, you can do it in perspective. If you want something even more than that, you can put a pattern on the ball to work with the curvature of the ball. If you want something even more technical than that, you can make it into like a little character where instead of it just being a circle, also your circle doesn't need to be filled in. It can just be like a sketch of a circle or a sphere, I guess it would be. You can have it just be like a little plush toy with like little yarn arms. So you'll have to deal with what the face is curling around the ball as well as the yarn arms. The way that you can plan out how the arcs are gonna be, or the path of it, that is my aesthetic, Etoile. I had to look at my étoile thing. I don't know why I keep saying Etoile. I just see the Eto and I'm like, yeah, Japanese pronunciation. But I can tell you that my like 100% aesthetic is just scribbles that are animated, because I find it so fascinating to see, like, if you see a still frame, you'll have no idea what it is. But when you actually play it, it becomes something, and not just it becomes something, it becomes something that is moving with life. And I just love that so much. So if it's just like, it's a circle, I swear, and then when you play it, it becomes really pretty. As long as it looks nice as it plays, you can make it look like whatever you want. It just needs to move nicely. So, are there any questions about anything so far?
Do you have an example to show us?
Yes. I have no idea where the stream is right now. What are you guys seeing right now?
I'm seeing a animation of two guys. We know like one guy, but oh, now it changed. It changed just now. One guy like sort of going down, and there's like
oh wow,
a black oval.
That's really far behind. Oh dear. I was thinking it was like maybe 5 minutes behind, but this is when I started explaining the very beginning of the bouncing ball lesson. Once you came back. So
wow.
That's been a while. I'll make sure to upload the recording I'm doing so you guys can actually see what I've been doing this whole time, because I've been drawing and animating and showing examples this whole time. Oh no. YouTube, why? I will send screenshots right now of what I've been doing.
Okay.
Let me just get out the good old Gyazo. I don't know why I thought I was hitting 1 when I was hitting Z.
Oh yeah, I can use it.
Just gonna let this play through for a little bit. And then wait for that to upload. And I heard the ding saying it was done. Go to Google and Gyazo.
Oh, there's an example. I'm seeing one.
Yeah, I'll also post a link to the examples I have. So,
Okay.
no worries about that.
So it doesn't like stretch horizontally, it stretches vertically?
Yeah, when something gets smaller one way, it's going to get longer the other. So if it gets longer horizontally, it gets smaller vertically. And then vice versa.
But like when the ball is falling, it gets longer vertically, and then when it falls, it stretches like when it hits the ground, it stretches horizontally.
Yeah, because
it's like a squash.
Yeah,
It squashes.
When it gets shorter and wider, it's a squash. When it gets taller and thinner, it's a stretch. And so when something's moving very quickly, you have it stretch in the direction of wherever it's headed to. And when that all of a sudden stops, it's going to squish against the ground.
Ah.
Okay. So this is the stuff that I was showing in the...
A little pug.
Yeah. So these are the things that I was showing and talking about that no one could see. That I was not aware no one could see.
I gotta enable Adobe Flash Player.
I wonder what would happen if I would restart the stream, if it will catch up to where I am. And then maybe it won't be so terrible. I'm gonna try that. Sorry if the stream suddenly stops. Just gonna hit this, wait a couple seconds. Probably gonna say it's gonna go down and then it will come back up.
So do you want the ball to be like traveling forward in the assignment, or do you want it to just be traveling like vertically?
It has to go across the screen for at least 5 bounces for each type of ball. There'll be a soft material and a hard material, like a tennis ball and a cannonball is what people normally do. That way you get a feel of like how solid objects would squish and how more like pliable materials would squish.
Alright. So like an object like a stress ball would squish longer, like it would stretch longer than say a bowling ball.
Yeah. And stress balls are weird because for them they have a lot of give to them, but they also have very little bounce because of just they can stretch or they can squash, but they don't like release very quickly. Like when you squeeze it, it takes a while for it to return to its default shape. Where if you squeeze a tennis ball, it's immediately gonna go back. And that's one way you can tell how high something will bounce, is how, for one, how hard is it thrown towards the ground. Usually if it's just dropped, it will be the best way of indicating it, or if you throw it up, because if you throw it up rather than throwing it down, it has to go to a complete stop and then start moving from 0 miles per hour going to however fast it's gonna get, depending on how heavy it is and gravity and everything.
Okay.
So hopefully the stream won't be too laggy. It probably will be because internet. And so I'll make sure to post like the sheet saying what everything is and post all the links to where everything will be. Let me post the link to the perspective. I forgot how much I chatted with people after the class yesterday. There was one girl from Germany. Their username is Change. I chatted with her for like 2 or 3 hours after the class, and she's like, "It's 3 a.m. where I am at right now," and I'm like, "Oh no." But if you want to do a ball in perspective, this is a really easy tutorial on how to measure how far apart the bounces would be. Because like when I took the Principles of 2D class, I've already done a bunch of ball bounces and just practice before even taking the class with Flipnote Hatana on the DS and just composition notebooks with flip notes, or just making a flip book. So I didn't want to have to do another one of just a ball bouncing completely across the screen. And so the teacher's like, if you've already done this, you can put it in perspective. And I'm like, challenge accepted. So you can make it as simple or as complicated as you want, but make sure that it's not going to be too complicated where it will stress you out, and it won't be too easy where you won't learn anything. So for the first one, you have to kind of gauge what your skills are right now, and for future assignments, I can help figure out where, like, what level assignments you should try, based on previous assignments and everything. And if there's any questions, message me whenever. Make sure you do at either Alicia DeMarco or at teacher. I'll get instant notifications for both of those. And if you want to send a work in progress or just something that you finished that you want critiqued before the next class happens, feel free to send me that. I'll do either a draw over or I will just give you a written critique. And oh yeah, Gravity Falls art for the win. I've done a lot of that. But if there's anything that you guys need, message me whenever. If you want to send me a file, you can do it either in a GIF or MOVs work best, but I can easily just change any video file into an MOV. So just send me that file and I'll critique it and send it back before the next class if you want to keep working on it. Or you won't have to if I'm just like, it's good. Can't see anything that you need fixing. And feel free to ask each other for critique and everything if you also have questions and for some reason I'm just not available. Joe's the assistant teacher.
Oh god.
Say hi, Joe.
Hi, I forgot that.
You were voluntold for this position.
I know.
Mister, I've taken Principles of 2D, but I'll take it again.
Yeah, I know.
Also,
So yeah,
Yeah. Go on, Joe. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say I'll be willing to help if anybody needs it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I can reiterate how to export things in Krita.
Yeah, that's it. If you have problems with programs, I'm probably not the.
Yeah,
I guess you know.
for the more animation techniques thing and for techniques and critique for the animation itself, Joe's great at that, but he also doesn't know all the random programs that I do because I do this instead of having a life.
You have a life, Alicia. You know it. It's just an
Yeah, it's
animation
just
life.
yeah, it's my animation life, the one
Yeah,
that has no one else in it.
that's not true. We're talking to you right now.
True.
Are you?
That's
Are you
very
still
true.
streaming? Are you still streaming?
I am.
You should let the
And
world know that you're not alone.
uh
I'm sorry. I'm terrible.
oh hey, it's not too far behind, I think. Oh well. The recording is actually nice and up to date and will be posted as soon as possible. So for exporting animations in Krita, I'll just do like screen capture and post that. So screen capture and Discord. I'm gonna move this way down here. Make sure I'm in Class B, because it would be weird if I randomly posted to Class A. So as you can see, I have the beautiful animation of this face. And to export it, you hit the render animation. And the one thing that you'll need to make sure you have is, I can just do the little snipping tool right here and copy paste. So the little highlighted bit at the bottom for the FFmpeg, you'll have to download that. It's like a plugin thing. Not exactly sure what it is, but you have to make sure you click on the little folder next to it and let it know where it is located on your computer. I missed that, so that was my 2 hours of just pain and torment that it was putting me through. And then you can make it a MPEG-4 file. And every time I see MPEG, I want to say MPG or MP3 or an MP4. But it has that darn E in it. Let me get out the highlighter. And then copy. And I keep forgetting where I've moved things. So you have to make sure it's set to the actual video file. And also make sure that you say delete sequence after rendering, because you'll get a bunch of image files from that, and sometimes it's easy to miss where the video file is. Because the first couple times I was just like, there's nothing but 375 images here, because Toon Boom's fantastic, except it doesn't export GIFs, and that's no good. So I was gonna, for a while I was uploading the frames into here and exporting it like that, and then I realized it doesn't do transparent backgrounds. So I just would put the frames for the PNG files into just a online converter, and let me get the link for that. And this is also great if you have video files that are under a I don't know why I went to the wrong channel. if you have video files that are for some reason freakishly big, which happens to me a lot because Toon Boom doesn't know how to make things nice. As far as I knew, you weren't able to do the background transparent. At least from what I've tried with the GIFs, it's always like the back. Yeah, hold on, let me try it with this. Cancel. Make it actually do a thing. And then and make it end at that frame. Wow, that head grows something fierce. So it will end at frame 5. And if I export this as a GIF, will we see the face? GIF image, and it will render to my desktop, because that's, for once in my life, actually not cluttered. It might end up being, but test face, and it's exporting. Oh, I forgot to make sure to change. That's probably gonna be a long GIF, because I'm pretty sure I forgot to change the settings in the render settings to make it end on frame 5. So it's gonna be 5 frames of a face and then nothing. I'm just gonna re-render it just in case. Oh no, it did it right. Let's see what the GIF is. I'm just gonna upload it here. Go to my desktop. It should have loaded. Is it this one? Gosh dang, computer not telling me where my things are. Actually, I'm gonna export this in white so I actually know if it is the right GIF or not. Just gonna layer filter invert. Did that do it for all of it or just this frame? Oh no, it was just that frame. Just gonna control Z that. Oh, let's just control I. That will make things faster. And get rid of this one, move this one over. And file, render, GIF, delete the sequence after. Oh, I forgot to change this to test face. That's why it was weird. So, are there any questions about just the assignment or how to do a ball bounce in general that anyone has?
Okay, just to clarify, so basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make a GIF of a ball bouncing across the screen 5 times, and then after that ball, I'm going to have another ball made from a different material doing the same thing.
For the second one, it won't be doing just the ball bouncing across the screen. You'll have it roll off of something like the cannonball link that I posted.
Oh.
For that, you'll have it roll off of somewhere and have the ball slowed to a stop so the bounces won't be the same height like the first one. They'll decrease because of gravity and friction and everything, and then roll to a stop. That way, you'll be able to have practice with a ball interacting in an environment setting, as well as having something more interesting for a portfolio if you ever show it to anybody.
Okay. So, like, we're supposed to have the ball, so we're supposed to have, like, one scene where the ball is moving across the screen, bouncing 5 times, made from a different material than it is when it's rolling off a slope onto the ground and then bouncing.
Yeah, like the one that's just the ball bouncing across the screen will be like a tennis ball, and the one rolling off a shelf or a slope or out a window or whatever you choose for it to be going out of, that will be like a cannonball or a bowling ball. So it will be like
Okay.
one soft object, one dense object.
Okay.
And this is the animation that has rendered it. For some reason, if it does render it with transparency, I have no idea how to do it. So I usually just export the frames as a PNG and pop it into here. Or I already posted it, the EasyGIF. Because it can, that's like super helpful because you can just make a video smaller and it won't make the video decrease in quality. So it's really nice and really helpful for that, because I get things that are like 50 megabytes and it will make it less than 1 megabyte. And then you can immediately take that file that you just made smaller and make it a GIF. And you can just upload a video, make it a GIF as well. And it does transparency, and it's up to, I forget how many frames you can make the GIF, but I know the video file has to be less than 100 megabytes for it to do anything on the site, and that sucks because it's like the video files I get are so big, and then I keep trying to have to make them smaller, and then it reaches past that 100 point, and I'm like, no, it's so close. Because right now I have something that's like 109 megabytes, and it's like, nope, no can do. You're stuck with it. But yeah, if there's any questions later on that you guys have, message me. I'll make sure to post the like assignment sheet for like what's the requirements of the assignment, and as long as you have just like those basic things, you can do whatever you want with the assignment, and have fun with it.
Quick question. I may not have been listening, but where did you want us to post these?
You can either post them in the class chat for Class B, or you can just direct message me if you want it to be more of a I only want to show the teacher kind of thing.
Okay. Got it.
And if you do message me for questions about assignments or anything, make sure you do the @teacher @Alicia, because I'll get like a little notification for that. But because there's so much general chat, I won't get notifications for just the general chat without like having the @me thing on it.
Okay, so right now I've already started working on the ball assignment, and it seems to be very like robotic, like very like stiff.
If you want, you can post it, and I could help you with that. Because that's what people yesterday were doing. They were already starting as well, and someone posted just like a quick gif of what they were working on. And actually, a couple people did throughout either the lesson or after the lesson.
Alright, I'm posting a GIF of not posting. I'm exporting it as a GIF, and then I'll show it to you.
Okie doke.
Alright, I exported it. I'm just going to add it into the thing. Where did I save it?
Yeah, that's always the worst, isn't it? When you're just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I just put it, I usually just go back and re-export it to either see where it went the last time, or just to put it in the right place and have just two files that I probably won't end up needing later on.
I forget. How do you export a GIF from Flash? I only exported like a GIF sequence.
I can tell you I've honestly never used Flash before.
Not Flash, Animate.
Yeah, Adobe Animate. It's basically the same thing. I've never used it, and I don't own it. So if anyone knows how, because I remember I opened up a file for a puppet rig in it once. I tried to use it, I couldn't figure it out, so I ran back to Toon Boom because I like not change.
I'll just look it up on the internet.
That's usually the route I have to take as well. But how would a GIF sequence be different than just a GIF, though?
It's like multiple different files. It's like each frame, but as a GIF, but no animation.
So it's like just a bunch of GIF files of individual frames?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Uh-huh.
Why would it have that functionality?
Yeah.
It's like if someone were to say like, "Oh, it's because this would have transparency." It's like, so does a PNG.
Oh, I was being dumb. The option was already there.
That's always a great feeling, huh?
Yeah.
I keep getting distracted by my nails because I got a new nail polish earlier today because it was a like a crossover combo brand of Crayola and Sally Hansen. So the top has like the little Crayola squiggle on it, and I loved it. Even if it is like the most vibrant reddish pink I've ever seen. It's the Crayola crayon color Razzmatazz. And it kind of smells like crayons. Like crayons with nail polish. So every time I like scratch my nose or something, I smell it and I'm like, what was that? Because it's a really weird smell. And that's also my ADD taking off. I always love the phrase, I have ADOLAPB. It stands for Attention Deficit of Look a Pretty Butterfly. And I'm also proud that I can actually say ADOLAPV without tripping over my words too much. Because then it becomes more believable and people are more inclined to ask what it is. So, I think that's pretty much it for the lesson, because we went over the basics of the programs. If anyone needed help, we went over just how to do the ball bounce in general. Oh, arcs. I almost forgot my most favorite principle. Arcs are important. Without arcs, your animation will look either really stiff or jittery or robotic.
Or all of the above.
Yeah, or all the above. It'll look like a really jittery, stiff robot.
Yep.
Oh, yay, it's been posted. Yeah, you're having too much of a slow-in when it hits the ground. It has to just keep going faster until it hits the ground. So the timing is backwards on it. So it should be slow at the top and fast at the bottom.
Oh, that's what was wrong with my animation.
Yeah, for the timing chart for it, should have a lot of frames of a sphere at the top of the arc and very little at the bottom.
Alicia, so we're allowed to animate in ways other than frame by frame, right?
Yeah, like this
Okay.
isn't frame by frame. What I have for the example is just a sphere and two types of transformations. One that's the up and down, one's the across.
Okay.
As long as it looks believable,
it's
you're
good.
okay. I technically also kinda did frame by frame because I didn't want to have to do the actual transformations on the ball itself as another pin, because that gets to be a slippery slope that I don't want to have to go down. But it also looks weird when I take both of the pins off and I just kind of play it because it looks like it has... Actually, it looks pretty interesting. Not gonna lie, I kind of like it. Oh,
mine?
I didn't notice you posted yours.
Oh yeah, I posted.
I was just looking at the little thing that I ended up doing, which for some reason I drew on a weird layer. I just took off the up and down transformations in the left and right and only had the squash and stretch, and it has like this weird pulsing quality to it. Yeah, there's too many frames in it.
Okay, I'll remove some.
Yeah, for also have it start at the top of an arc if you can. That way you get the whole slowing out of the arc and quickly into the bounce itself.
Okay.
Because, let's see, there is 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to zoom in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 frames going up for mine and 7 frames going down. Also, that's another thing that's important. Make sure the amount of frames going up is very close, if not the same, as the amount of frames going down. Because if one's different, it becomes more sentient, like it's either pushing itself up or it's really propelling itself down.
Ah.
But yeah, usually around 7 to 12 frames going up and 7 to 12 frames going down is good for just like a basic tennis ball bounce. For the cannonball or the more denser object, it will be, depending on the height it starts at, it will be less frames going up and down because it's going to bounce faster. And it's going to have probably a little less of a slow in. But also one thing that really helps is planning out your arcs ahead of time, where you'll just draw out the path that the ball is going to take, where that way you can see if the arcs are going to end up being too wide or too narrow, and you can plan around that. I'll just draw something right quick. And it also helps with if you're doing just like the straight across the screen bounce, because then you can just literally copy and paste the arc across. And for frame by frame animation, you want to avoid copying and pasting or tracing a ball. You want it, if anything, you'll use that as just like a base to redraw it, because it starts looking more puppeted-ish if you trace the ball exactly. So that's why just having a really rough sketch and the arcs planned out as just like a guide. That way it looks more organic when it's moving. I should make this a different color. And then make this a different color. And another different color. I completely forgot about stretching these out. Here we go. Are there any other questions that anyone has so far?
Not really.
Okie doke.
Should I mention the Richard Williams example?
Oh yeah, if
Or
anyone
or
wants
that-
to, the best place for examples is the Richard Williams book.
Animator Survival Kit.
Yep.
Oh, I'll type that down. There we go.
Yeah. If I find my flash drive, or if I made sure to bring my flash drive up with me to New York, that has the PDF copy on it, I'll probably end up sending that over for everyone.
We got another question in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, never mind.
Ah, yeah. Question marks are usually things you want to avoid. A lot of times programs also don't like spaces. They prefer underscores to spaces, and for sequences stuff, for especially After Effects and programs like that, they like it when there's 4 numbers after the file name. So it's like face animation, or face underscore animation 0001, face underscore animation 0002, and
And
so
the list
on
goes on
so
and
forth.
on.
Yeah, so on and so forth. Okie doke, and I can select this and Control C, Control V, and connect it. Control V and connect it. Then skew it down this way. And snipping tool. Copy and paste. So yeah, this was what it would look like for just planning it out. Like the spheres don't necessarily be in the right places. It'll be just the general area of like the balls here are going to be closer, the balls over here are further apart, and this is the path that it's going to take. And that's probably the best way of just planning out animations. That and thumbnails. Thumbnails are the best.
Thumbnails are usually a must in the industry.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Boy, I wish I would I wish I would name things better sometimes. But at the same time, I'm just like, nah. Let's see, where did I save this? Oopsie doopsie, I forgot where I put this. Oh wait, I can sort by image type. Here we go. For things that are like, why do you keep opening? I don't want you to open.
And this is due on the next class period, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that would be next week.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
And so like, this is the thumbnails I did for one animation I'm working on, because I'm trying to figure out all my magical girls attacks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's slowly uploading. There
So what does it stretch, and then when it hits the ground, then it
it squashes.
What do you call it? Squashes. Yeah.
One of the 12 principles of animation.
So like the moment it touches the ground. So it doesn't like start like squashing as it gets closer to the ground, because that would sound weird.
No.
Shouldn't.
It has to like first make contact, and then as it's stopping, it's pushing everything down and out.
Okay.
It's like water, but more solid.
Okay.
Yay, physics.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at physics.
Neither am I. But...
I like physics because it's the class that tells you how to take a bike off a ramp that's on a roof into a pool without dying. You'll still probably get horribly hurt. But if physics taught me anything, it taught me how to do that.
Cool. I don't think I've ever taken a physics class. Sorry, we're going off topic now.
It's usually a requirement for high school.
Maybe our high school was different. Or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. I think we did, though.
Where on earth did I...
Considering we were more like sports-based, I wouldn't know. I don't remember my high school years very much.
Where did I save this?
So does that mean the class is over then?
It technically is. I went over pretty much everything. And so if there's like anything else that people either want to Oh yeah?
What about the critique stream?
Oh yeah, that was a good question.
For that, it will be basically the beginning of next class for people who want like a actual verbal critique, where I open up their file and do a draw over and say like, oh, this should have looked more like this, or this is good, but it would look better if it was more like this.
Yeah.
And then anyone who doesn't want to have their stuff critiqued in front of the class can just send me the file and let me know that, and I can just do a draw over critique after the class and post it up, like send it back to them with the critique on it. And this is where I saved it. It is, gosh, that's a long image name. I'm gonna rename this as stars. There it is. I have no idea. It usually doesn't take me too long on my computer. But I also put a lot of money into this computer. Pretty much all my tuition money, or not tuition money, my graduation money went into my computer and tablet, and my brother helped me build it. So I don't know how it compares to like just a normal everyday computer. But for me it doesn't take very long at all to like actually export frames. Yeah, it shouldn't take that long then. If it does, it might be a setting somewhere. Bye, Joe.
Bye.
Yeah, my brother is helped me build it, and then something wasn't working, so he called his friend who's also a computer guy, and he came and helped, and we finally got my computer up and running. But my brother's super jealous because he's like, it's not fair that your computer's stronger than mine. I'm the one going into the computer field of work.
But doesn't animation require more? Doesn't it require more computer power than like programming?
It it all depends on what kind of animation. Like my 4 or 5 year old laptop can run Toon Boom perfectly fine, and I can animate really complicated things on it. But as soon as it gets into the realm of 3D animation, it's just like 100% dead. And because that's what I majored in college was mostly computer animation than 2D animation. I just really love 2D animation and always did it because I like being a generalist. Um, I still have to have like a super strong computer so Maya won't set it on fire or make me cry or make like the over spring break I had to render out a hair test for a character, and it took 8 hours for one test that I had to scrap because the settings weren't right on it. And once I got back to school and did a like the cache for the simulation, it took 5 minutes, and I was so upset because I wasted most of my spring break waiting every 8 hours to see if an animation was gonna look nice, when I could have just worked on other stuff and waited until school started, and then everything would have been nice and happy times. So, if no one else really has questions or anything, they can, if you have other things you need to get to or other things that you want to do, you can head out. I'm probably gonna stay here because there's another class. Class C is happening at 7 o'clock, which is in an hour. So I'll probably be here just messing around with an animation I started earlier today. Or I guess it was more last night than anything. No problem.
Alright, bye.
Bye. And I'll stop the recording for the class.